check. Check.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Texas State Representative Patricia Harless.
Hi, welcome to Texas. My name's Patricia Harless. I am a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a Christian, and a Republican woman, and a supporter of Nikki Haley. 13 days ago, I got to cast my ballot for Nikki Haley for president. I immediately got on a plane, flew to South Carolina to help knock doors for her in South Carolina. Nikki talks about the things that are important to me: uniting our country, doing something about the immigration problem that has become a crisis in our state. She talks about this is for our country, not for ourselves. Nikki Haley is a two-term governor of South Carolina, a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. She is the first Republican woman to win a Republican presidential primary. And she's the next Republican president of the United States. Welcome, Nikki. Governor, I always used to refer to South Carolina as mini Texas because we love our freedom.
And you know, it has been almost a year since I announced I was running for president. We had 14 people in the race. I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just have one more fella I got to catch up to. You know, you look at where we are. These are really interesting times in our country. You don't have to turn on the news to see how tough it is. We're $34 trillion in debt. We are becoming $1 trillion more in debt every 100 days. You go and you look at all of that spending and all of the debt that we have. We are now spending more in interest than we are our defense budget. You know who's paying attention to that? Russia, China, and Iran. And I would love to tell you that Joe Biden did that to us. And he sent us down this roller coaster of socialism that's dangerous. It has to stop. But I have always spoken in hard truths. And I'm going to do that with you today. Donald Trump and our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability, that expanded welfare, that's now left us with 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. And did Republicans try and make it right? Nope. They doubled down and opened up pet projects and earmarks for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them last year. In the 2024 appropriations budget, Republicans put in $7.4 billion worth of pet projects. Democrats put in $2.8 billion. Now you tell me who the big spenders are. All while 1 in 6 American families can't afford their utility bill. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. Something's got to give. Don't you think it's finally time we had an accountant in the White House? So this is what this accountant would do. We'd start by clawing back the $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still sitting out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, they should go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? We'll stop the spending, we'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate the pet projects, and I will veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. And then we're going to take as many federal programs as we can and send them down to the states. That will dramatically reduce the size of the federal government, but it will empower people on the ground. Think education, think health care, think welfare, think mental health. If we cut the strings and send that down so that the people can have access to those resources, I would much rather that than Washington bureaucrats making those decisions. And then we're watching the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. We need to open up the middle class. That's why we want to cut taxes on the middle class and simplify the brackets. We want to eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. And we want to make sure we make small business tax cuts permanent. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. We need to start acting like it. And we will make our energy sector energy dominant. We will open it all up. That's how we'll take care of our economy. But you know, speaking of Congress, they have one job, just one job, and that's to give us a budget on time. Well, don't turn on the news because they failed at it again. Do you know Congress has only given us a budget on time 4 times in 40 years? 4 times in 40 years. You know what I say about that? When I'm president, you don't give us a budget on time, you don't get paid, period. Don't you think it's finally time we had term limits in Washington, D.C.? Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75? And let me say this. I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. We all know people who are over 75 that can run circles around us. And then we know Joe Biden. Congress has become the most privileged nursing home in the country. It's true. These are people making decisions on our national security. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. We need to know they're at the top of their game. It's not anything to play with. And then, let's talk about the border. I can't believe this is happening in the United States of America. 9 million illegal immigrants have come to that border. We had more fentanyl cross the border last year that would kill every single American. #1 cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. Now, when I was governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. I want to take what we did in South Carolina and go national with it. We want a national E-Verify where every business has to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We need to defund sanctuary cities once and for all. We need to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We'll go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That is how we will stop what happens on the border. But you know, Congress had a bill a couple of weeks ago on the border. And if you look at that bill, the good part of the bill was it strengthened asylum laws. We have to do that. 3 million illegal immigrants came in under Trump because our asylum laws weren't strong enough. So we have to do that. The weak part about the bill, it didn't have Remain in Mexico, and we have to have that. And it had a 5,000 person threshold. We can't even have a 1-person threshold. But the part that you should be upset with is what Congress should have done was gone into a room and not come out until they have a strong border bill to help us. But Donald Trump went and told them not to pass anything until after November because it would hurt him in the general election. We can't wait one more day to secure that border. We've got to secure it now. You look at what Governor Abbott's doing. He's doing everything he's supposed to do to protect the people of Texas. But Congress needs to get in a room, figure it out, and pass a strong border bill, and Donald Trump needs to stay out of it. We can't wait. And then, you know, I grew up in rural South Carolina, and my parents always taught me, you take care of those who take care of you. But I'm going to ask you if we're taking care of those who take care of us. Right now in America, over 35,000 of our veterans are homeless. 1 in 3 suffers from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. We lose 22 heroes a day to suicide. If a veteran needs a doctor's appointment at the VA, on average, it takes 29 days. Why 29 days? Because on the 30th day, they can go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. So midway through the 29 days, they get a call to reschedule. and the clock starts all over again. It is shameful how we treat our veterans. Now, I'm the proud wife of a combat veteran who served in Afghanistan. And when Michael came home to us, that was a lot of prayers answered. But that was the easy part. When we got home, life got hard. Michael couldn't hear loud noises. He couldn't be in crowds. Life had passed him by for the year that he was gone, and the transition was tough. We can't just love our men and women when they're gone. We got to love them when they come back home, too. Let's do better than just a 2-week transition. Let's take care of them for the long haul. That's why we need to have telehealth, so they get the mental health care they need right when they need it. We should let them go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. They've earned that right. And I think the best way we take care of VA health care, I think every member of Congress should have to get their health care from the VA, and you watch how fast that gets fixed. It'll be the best health care you've ever seen, guaranteed. And speaking of military, let's talk about national security. The world is on fire, literally. You've got a war in Europe. You've got a war in the Middle East. You've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. You've got China doing cyber attacks on our infrastructure. And now we have Russia blinding satellites so we can't see anything that they're sending or doing. But make no mistake, none of this would have happened had we not had that debacle in Afghanistan. The idea that Michael and his military brothers and sisters who served there had to watch us leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that said to our friends. More importantly, think about what that said to our enemies. Now is the time we have to have a leader who has moral clarity. We need someone who knows the difference between right and wrong, between good and bad. And you look 2 weeks ago, and Donald Trump said that he would encourage Putin to invade our allies. Now think about that for a second. Donald Trump's willing to side with a thug where 500,000 people have been wounded or killed because Putin invaded Ukraine. Donald Trump's willing to side with a dictator who kills his political opponents. Donald Trump's willing to side with a tyrant who arrests American journalists and holds them hostage. Donald Trump wants to side with a madman who's made no bones about the fact that he wants to destroy America. And you're going to side with him over our allies who stood with us after 9/11? America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends. We need a lot of friends. Now, I will be the first one to tell you, I don't think we should give cash to any country, friend or enemy, because you can't follow it and you can't hold it accountable. But when it comes to our focus, it should always be, how do we prevent war? It's the #1 mission. How do we prevent war? And so when you go and you hear Putin say, once he takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next, those are NATO countries. That immediately puts America at war. We're trying to prevent war. The focus should always be to prevent war. And so when you have a president, you can't do what Joe Biden is by putting your head in the sand. And you can't do what Donald Trump is by getting weak in the knees with Putin. You have to do what I did at the United Nations, which is I told countries what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but we wanted them to respect America. Look, we know what we need to do on national security. We know what we need to do on domestic policy. Now let's talk about what you need to do tomorrow. We have literally been in 10 states in the past week. We are anywhere and everywhere trying to let people know what their choice is tomorrow. And the choice comes down to this. We can either have more of the same, or we can go in a new direction. More of the same is not just Joe Biden. More of the same is Donald Trump. But let me tell you why this matters to me. First, you should know this is not personal for me. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But chaos follows him. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. But look at the last couple of months. They said that we were going to be down 30, 35 points in the polls in New Hampshire, and we ended up getting 43% of the vote. And I don't know if you watched election night, but Trump was completely unhinged. He went off about revenge, and my dress, by the way. Then the next day he said anyone who supports her is barred permanently from MAGA. The problem with that is, if you're running for president, your job is to bring people in, not push people out of your club. Then the next day he tries to get the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. Now, we don't anoint kings in America. We have elections. And Texans deserve the right to be able to vote. And then he had a couple of court cases where he had some judgments against him, and he went on about being a victim. Now, the problem I have with whether it was the night of New Hampshire or whether it was after these court cases, at no point did he ever talk about the American people. At no point did he talk about the fact that we're $34 trillion in debt. At no point did he talk about the fact that only 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. At no point did he talk about the fact that he stopped us from getting a congressional strong border bill. At no point did he talk about the fact that there were lawlessness in our cities. And at no point did he talk about the wars around the world. All he did was talk about himself. And that's the problem. This isn't about him. This is about the American people. And you will see, I will always fight for every freedom for you to have. And you look, there was a court case, the Supreme Court ruled today that Donald Trump could stay on the ballot. And no, I think that was important. We don't ever want some elected official in a state or anybody else saying who can and can't be on a ballot. This is America. This is America. Look, I'll defeat Donald Trump fair and square, but I want him on that ballot. But this is also about the fact that what's happening in America. Because at no point is anybody, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, talking about our debt, talking about the wasteful spending, talking about how taxpayer dollars are being abused. But Donald Trump's not going to, because he put us $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years. Now, he loves to say that was about COVID. That was less than 20%. And what happened? I think we need to shrink the size of government. He grew the size of government. I think we need to clean out our agencies. He added to them. I think we need to make sure that we have more ability to have people on the ground get those resources than Washington, D.C., and he allowed D.C. to continue on. But more than that, we have to talk about this debt. Because that's national security, when we are losing the value of a dollar, when it is shrinking because we're not spending. And what are Republicans doing? They're following Donald Trump's lead. That's why they opened up the pet projects and the earmarks. That's why they continue to spend. And then what else are we seeing? You're seeing the fact that in national security, it was always peace through strength. It was always that we need more friends because our alliances intimidated the enemy. And now you see Donald Trump's walking back from that. There is nothing worse than America alone. Because if you have America alone, when we need something, they are not going to be there for us. And we can never be so arrogant to think we won't need friends, because we will. And we need to focus on what it takes to get America back on track. America is so distracted right now. And when America's distracted, the world is less safe. And that's playing out. But even look at the Republican Party. As those principles are changing and going with Donald Trump, so is the party structure. The RNC was always about winning seats up and down the ticket. And now, before the primary is over, Donald Trump is putting his daughter-in-law as the head of it. He's putting his campaign manager to run it. He spent $60 million in campaign contributions on his own personal court cases. And now he's going to make the RNC his own legal slush fund? But also look at the fact, what has happened since he did become president? I was in Michigan. Now, Michigan in 2012, I was there, they were celebrating. They were winning up and down the ticket. They had passed right to work. They really were a beacon. But look at Michigan now. Since Donald Trump became president, they lost the governor's mansion, they lost the state house, they lost the state senate. Then I went to Minnesota, the exact same thing happened. Then I went to Colorado. No Republican has gotten over 45% statewide since Donald Trump became president. Then I went to Virginia, the same thing. And the only reason Glenn Youngkin was able to hold on was because he distanced himself from Donald Trump. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. We lost in 2022. But look, 2 weeks ago, Republicans lost the vote on Mayorkas. They lost the vote on Israel. The RNC chair lost her job, and Donald Trump's fingerprints were on all of it. How much more losing do we have to do before we realize maybe Donald Trump is the problem? And don't take my word for it. Look at the polls. In any one of the polls that are out there, he squeaks by. In all those same polls, I defeat Joe Biden by up to 18 points. Do you know what that means? That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's governorships, that's school boards. That's really getting our country back on track. But you win with that kind of mandate, a double-digit win, you go into D.C. and we stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to go to our kids with school, get them back reading again, and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order back in our cities, and that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents wars that we can all be proud of. Don't you want that? Because we could have that. But in order to have that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage for me to run, and courage for every one of you to know, don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't play in this primary. It matters. It matters. You know, 8 months ago, I dropped my husband Michael off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they'd never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. But I'll say this, I'm not doing this for me. Clearly, I think I've made my point. I'm not doing this to be vice president. I'm not doing this for a political career. If that was the case, I'd been out a long time ago. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for your kids and your grandkids. Look at what this younger generation has been through. They went through COVID, which was traumatic by the way it was handled. Then they wonder what this $34 trillion of debt is going to mean to them because they know they're going to be responsible for it. They worry about getting a job. They worry about making ends meet. They don't think they're ever going to be able to afford a home. And they worry about wars around the world. And all of that is under this umbrella in America of anger and division. And then we want to know why there's so much stress, anxiety, and depression out there? Our kids deserve to know what normal feels like. Under Joe Biden, it is not normal to have millions of illegal immigrants coming across the border and nobody stopping them. It is not normal to care more about in schools about gender pronouns and whether the kids can read them. It's not normal to go and have these wars around the world. But under Donald Trump, it's not normal to side with a dictator over our allies. Under Donald Trump, it's not normal to mock the members of the military. It's not normal to spend campaign contributions on your personal court cases. And it's not normal to have Joe Biden call his opponents fascists and Donald Trump call his opponents vermin. None of that is normal. We can do better than two 80-year-old candidates for president. It is time for a new generational leader who can leave the negativity and the baggage behind and get to work for the American people. You know, when I first announced, they asked me why I was running. And I said, my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of possibilities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for Michael and his military brothers and sisters. They need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter who just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. The average home buyer in America now is 49 years old. The American dream is leaving them. And I'm doing this for my son who's a senior in college. And I am tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We do have a country to save. But now we get the opportunity to save her. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to go vote. I need you to take 10 people with you. I need you to get a yard sign, and if you're one of those people who can't have a yard sign in your yard, put it in the back of your car. I need you to call, text, email all your friends and family, because you would be amazed at how many people are just general election voters. And I want you to give them a message for me. In a general election, we're given a choice. In a primary, we make our choice. It's time for us to make that choice. Thank you very much, Texas. God bless you. Thank you.